Welcome to Bottles and Bites Without Borders, where every sip and every bite tell a story. Rob is your host. Each week, he will take you on a delicious journey, from vineyard tales and distillery secrets to culinary traditions. So, grab a favorite drink, a plate of something tasty, and join us for another adventure with Bottles and Bites.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for stopping in for another episode. This week's episode going to be kind of a continuation of what we did last week. Last week we did my 12 bourbons that I think should be on everyone's home bar, at least most of these. These were great bourbons that have great QPR, quality to price ratio, and they're available. That's the biggest benefit of the selections I made last week is availability. And, I got some comments, you didn't have any Ryes in your list, and fair, but I did that, on purpose because I think Rye, there's enough good ones on the shelf, delicious ones on the shelf, that I think it deserved its own category. And that's what we're following up or continuing with on this week's episode. We're going to do my top 6 Rye whiskeys that should be on your bar, at least some of these, if not all of these. And, these still have that great QPR. They punch up. They're not super expensive. They deliver on flavor. They deliver on quality. And then I'm going to give you at the end 3 Rye whiskeys that are tough to find. But if you get the opportunity to purchase these, because we're all taters, right? We're all still looking for these great bottlings. If you can find one of these 3 or all 3 of these, definitely worth the purchase. The last thing I'm going to tell you is I've got a Rye whiskey. This is my 7th Rye that could make my list. Judgment is being reserved until the end of the video if it'll pop out and be on my list. Either way, I'm going to show you what it is. And what this is a Rye whiskey I bought about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. When it was released, you guys can let me know in the comments when you see the bottle, when did this actually come out? You'll see by the bottle fill, still pretty full. I sipped on this a couple times and went, not for me. You guys, swung and missed on this particular offering. I don't like it. Kind of been sipping on it just before getting started with this episode. Going to sip on it a little bit more through the episode. And at the end, I'll let you know, have I changed my mind or do I still feel the same way I did initially? All right, let's jump into my list. Let's start here. Rye whiskey. Most people probably, if you're watching this, you're into bourbon, you know what a Rye whiskey is. Some may not. So for the benefit of those folks, I'm just going to quickly tell you what is the difference between a Rye whiskey and a bourbon whiskey. It's all about the lead grain, right? On a bourbon, you have to have in the mash bill 51% or more of corn in that mash bill to make it a bourbon. Now, there's other things that you have to do, right, related to barrel and age and all this stuff, but it has to be at least 51% corn to be a bourbon. When you go to a Rye whiskey, you're just going to switch it in the mash bill. Now you got to have at least 51% rye to be considered a Rye whiskey. And so that's really the difference. So we're going to keep it that simple. The lead grain has to be at least 51%, and that's what we're talking about today. And the first one for our Rye whiskeys that made my top 6 that should be considered. I mean, I think they should be in your bar, but at least considered. Now, this one that I'm going to pull out, it's going to have a little bit of, we're going to talk about it a little bit there are some other options you could throw in here, but I don't think you need to load your bar up with all of them that fall into this category. And you'll understand what I'm saying in just a second. This is Old Forester Rye. This is 100 proof. The mash bill on this carries 65% rye, and I'm not going to lie to you. I've got these kind of pulled up on my phone. 65% rye, 20% corn. No, I'm lying to you. 20% malted barley and 15% corn. So this is interesting that the malted barley is a second grain here instead of the corn. Typically, you'll see that corn is the second grain finished up with that malted barley. I love this rye. I think this has depth, it has complexity, it has a proof point that works. It's great for just a simple sipper. It's fabulous for cocktails. If you're going to make a lot of cocktails, the liter bottle, I paid $27 for this, goes a long way in making cocktails for a group coming over, a dinner that you're having, something like that. It's a value buy that's still a quality product in the bottle. Now, I talked about, there might be some discussion or, question about why this one. This is for me. This is in that category of what I just described. And a lot of people might go, well, what about, we'll get through my list. Let me do that so I don't give you a sneak peek at what might not be on my list. We'll come back to this at the end and we'll talk a little bit more about it. All right, so Old Forester Rye, number 6 on my list. I'm going to jump to Sazerac from Buffalo Trace. I feel like, at least here in Texas, this is available everywhere. I mean, it sits on the shelf. This actually is a store pick, and I've got a few of these. So we get this here pretty regularly. I feel like most people do. So I went ahead and put it on the list. Last week's bourbon episode, I did not have any Buffalo Trace or Weller Green Label or anything like that on there. One, I don't know that it would make my list for my top 12. I don't think it beat out anything that was on my list. But even when you get to offerings like Eagle Rare and that, they're hard to find. So that's a big reason why Buffalo Trace wasn't on my list last week. This week it makes the list. This rye is solid. If I had one issue with this rye, it would be proof point. I think it's delicious. I think it's really good. It's at 90 proof. I think if you want to improve this Buffalo Trace, you want to make people talk about it more, kind of want it more, drink it more, I think you need to bump that proof up to 100, thereabouts. And I think it improves this whiskey a whole bunch. But Buffalo Trace Sazerac Rye makes the list. Now, this is probably the most famous rye. This comes from, New Orleans. This is where the cocktail, the Sazerac, comes from. This is, I don't want to say, but I think maybe the original rye that may have been used in an old fashioned. But a lot of history, a lot behind this bottle. I think it's really good. I don't know, 20. I think I get it here for like $26. So it's not expensive. Again, we're getting good quality as far as price to quality ratio is really, really good. I'm going to look here. This mash bill, it's what we call a barley rye, meaning it's 51%, right? It barely qualifies as a rye. It's followed up with 39% corn and 10% malted barley. So this is going to give you, with that much corn in there, a little bit more sweetness on this rye. And that's going to balance out, in that rye character, that kind of bite or spiciness that you typically get in the profile of a rye. I would say for a lot of people, at the proof 90 and at the corn percentage of 39%, this is probably a really good transition rye. This is going to be one that can take you from just sipping on bourbon to kind of entering the world of rye, if you will. So let's put that one over here. That's number 2 on my list. Let's go to number 3 on my list. Now, you might give me a hard time and go, Rob, you were just complaining about the 90 proof on that Sazerac Rye, and now you're going to pop one up at 90 proof and go, it's really good. Well, it is. It's just the way it goes. It just drinks differently, and it could be because of so much corn in that last offering of Sazerac. But what we have is number 3, which is the Russell's Reserve Rye. This is a 6-year-old, also 90 proof. This is a solid pour. There's times where I just like a 90 proof to 100 proof whiskey. I call it my warm-up pour. Something that just kind of gets the night started. It's that first pour, something to kind of get the palate acclimated because, there's more coming with a little bit more kick behind it. So we got to get you ready. These types of pours do that for me. If we look at, let's go look at, I got it right here, Wild Turkey. This is going to be 51%. So again, a barely rye. Now, Wild Turkey, they have 2 recipes. They have their rye and their bourbon. That's it. They don't change or adjust based on offering. It's exactly the same. What would change is, where it's at in the brick house, which warehouse is it in, and how long is it aged. That's kind of what you're going to see from these. But 90 proof, I think this has just this great roundness to it. You get the spice, you get a little bit of sweetness. Again, it's a barley rye, so another one that's a good transition into the world of rye. Russell's Reserve comes in at number 3 for me. Okay, I'm going to stay with Wild Turkey. Let's go to their next offering. You guys probably know what it is. This is going to be Wild Turkey Rare Breed. So this is exactly the same mash bill, except it's a blend. This is barrel proof too. So now we're going to kick it up a notch. We're going from 90 proof with that Russell 6-year. I think this is 112 if I'm remembering right. What is it? I'm lying to you, man. Yeah, 112 proof, 56% alcohol. Took me a second, man. Couldn't find it. Yeah, this is absolutely solid. I mean, when this came on the market a few years ago, it quickly became one of my favorite ryes. So much so that I had to do a couple of blinds with some other friends just to see if it was as good as I thought it was, putting it up against some other offerings, blind, to see where it fell. Not only with my palate, but like I said, I did it with a few friends just to see where it ranked. It always, out of a 5 rye blind, always finished 1 or 2. So it quickly, jumped up my list as one of my favorites to keep on the bar. And people who haven't had this, who come over, a lot of folks have had the rare breed bourbon, fantastic. A lot of them haven't had the rye. And when I pour this for them, especially this time of year when we're in winter, they actually kind of, give me that look and go, hold on a second, that's pretty good. And I go, you damn right it is. Wild Turkey, buddy. And, I'll be honest and tell you, I've never had, besides these 2 ryes, never had the 101 rye, or I think they even make like an 86 proof rye. Never have had those, but these 2 are really delicious bottles. Great offerings from Wild Turkey. That's number 4 on my list. Number 5 on my list is comes in and challenges Wild Turkey. When I said, it always finished 1 or 2, this was the other offering that was right there with it. This is a Heaven Hill product, and this is Pikesville Rye. And if you've never had Pikesville Rye, you're missing out. This is aged at least 6 years. And by the way, Wild Turkey also has blended, I think, 6, 8, 10 years, something like that. It's blended. This is aged at least 6 years. And this is also a barley rye, 51%. So you're going to get that spice. You're going to get that little kick of kind of Christmas kind of spices that you will, the nutmeg, the cinnamon, things like that. But they all have enough corn in them that they don't just beat you up, right? They're not beating up the palate. It still softens it a little bit. I think these are delicious for that reason. I think these are ryes that bourbon lovers are going to really gravitate to and enjoy because there is so much corn in the mash bill. So Pikesville Rye coming in at number 5 for me. Number 6 for me. And I'm wondering if you guys are figuring out what might be, what you're thinking should be on my list, because it's going to round out my top 6. And then we're going to jump to my top 3 that I think you should be buying if you can run into it. They're hard to find. But number 6 is going to be Jack Daniels. I got a lot of people last week, and probably rightfully so, mentioning that I didn't have on my list a Jack Daniels offering from my top 12 bourbons. Quite honestly, I have a few, the Jack Daniels barrel proof, love it. Jack Daniels single barrel, love it. I probably may have missed on that one, but definitely love Jack Daniels. This is a rye whiskey that was a special release a few years ago. This is their barrel proof, but they're starting to make their rye whiskey a little bit more. A lot of people are starting to make rye whiskeys a little bit more, and their single barrel proofs, I don't know if it's going to be a shelf item, but it seems to be available, seems to hit the shelves a few times a year. You can pick these up. Not necessarily the special release, but just their standard single barrel, barrel proof rye whiskey from Jack Daniels. So definitely need to have that on your list. They're actually delicious. This one is killer. This is 132 proof, or just at 131.9 if I'm going to be exact. Doesn't taste or drink that hot. Really a well-balanced, well-incorporated bourbon as far as the proof on this. Delicious. One of my favorites. I love this offering. And, you can see not a lot left in the bottle. I mean, I've had it for a few years. But when I have somebody over who says they really enjoy rye, love rye, this is one that I want to pour for them because I think it just punches so high that if you don't have a Jack Daniels rye in your lineup or on your bar, you definitely need to. All right, that's our top 6. Let's put them out here again. I'm going to just kind of go over them real quick just to talk about price. I think I may have missed a couple here. Let's just talk about them real quick. Here's what we got. Okay, we got the old Forester. We know this is 100 proof, about $27. You're getting a liter. Fantastic rye. I call it the versatile rye because you can sip it, and it's what I'm going to put in most cocktails. Then you've got the Sazerac Rye, which is kind of, the staple. This is where it all began. It comes from New Orleans, Louisiana. The Sazerac cocktail, if you've heard of it. Very famous, legendary. Should have one in your bar. I think Buffalo Trace product, but I'm pretty sure it's readily available across all, 48 states, maybe all 50. Then we're going to go to the 6-year rye. Excuse me. The 6-year rye from Wild Turkey. And again, $27, about $26, $28 for the Sazerac. Buffalo Trace, this 6-year rye, I say Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey, this 6-year rye is about, I think I'm paying about $35, $38 for a 6-year rye. 90 proof, but a delicious pour nonetheless. Wild Turkey barrel proof. This is going to be 112 proof. This is about $55 here in my market in Houston. Pikesville, also right around $50. This used to not be available as much. Now it's available. I'm seeing it on the shelves all the time. Another reason, whiskeys, bourbon, I should say, is it's correcting itself. We're starting to see the things that we really enjoyed back on the shelf. They disappeared for a while, but we're starting to see them pop back on the shelf and be there when we want to purchase them. And then we have the Jack Daniels. Now this Jack Daniels, this is a special one, so it was a little bit more. I think it paid like $80, maybe $85 for this offering. But I think their single barrel rye is selling for about $55 in this market. So I'd say call it 50 to 60, and it's delicious. I think you're getting 6-year, 8 or 6-year to 9-year blended. No, not in a single barrel. Single barrel, you're getting a barrel. I think they're about 6 to 8 years old each barrel. They may vary a little bit, but Jack Daniel's definitely worth having in your bar. So that's all 6 of my standards. Let's go to my top 3 that I think, if you can find it, pull the trigger and buy it. All right, let's get these out of the way. Wait, go back in here for another sip. I'm going to tell you right now, I believe my opinion of this particular bottle might be being changed. I think I might be ready to go ahead and make that call before we get to the 3 hard to find rye whiskeys. Yeah, I don't know if my palate changed or when I tried this before, for whatever reason, I just thought I didn't like it. And honestly, it's been years since I've revisited this bottle. But sometimes you got to be big enough to admit when you were wrong. And I think I was wrong. I don't think I know I was wrong. I really like this. This is really good. You get that rye spice on it, that kick. It's a nice Kentucky hug on there, but you still have this corn behind it that gives you this sweetness. It's not overpowering on the palate. It's got good viscosity on the palate. I really like the mouthfeel on this. It's actually a very solid whiskey and a delicious rye. So I'm going to go ahead right now and show you that one, what it is. We'll add it to the list. We're going to make this a top 7. As I take one more list, I'm wondering if any of you all are guessing what it might be. Let's see if you're right. This is what it is. Boom. This is the Elijah Craig 94 proof rye whiskey, straight rye. When this came out, gosh, help me out in the comments. I think it's been about 5 years ago this came out, something like that. That's when I bought this bottle. And you can see how full it still is because I had a couple pours out of it and went, not for me. And I don't know what was wrong with me back then because this is actually delicious. This is really good. And back then when it first came out, hard to find, This and that toasted release from Elijah Craig was hard to find. The rye, man, for whatever reason back then, I remember not liking it. But now, man, that's delicious. That is solid. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm glad this is in my bar. I'm glad I didn't give this bottle away. I'm glad I've revisited it based on doing this episode. And this is delicious. 94 proof, solid little proof point there. Still has a high corn as the second. This is 51%. And I think it's, let me look at it here real quick. I think this one has 30-some% corn in there. Let's see. This is Elijah Craig, 51% rye, 35% corn, 14% malted barley. So, yeah, delicious. Should have been, definitely in my list. I would say I would probably prefer this in front of the Sazerac if I were ranking these. I'm not. I'm just giving you my top 6, now 7. But if I were, this would definitely leapfrog Sazerac. And, I'd need to do a little blind with this, with the Russell 6-year, because, man, I don't know why it's hitting me so good today, but this is absolutely delicious. Really like that. And I think this is still on the shelf for, I want to say 32 to 35 bucks in my market. So I'm guessing it's similar for you guys, wherever you're at. And it's on the shelf all the time now. It's not hard to find at all. So we're going to add Elijah Craig. Now let's jump to my 3 rye whiskeys that are hard to find, that if you do find them, definitely worth spending the bucks and going ahead and get them at retail, not secondary, at retail. As I take another sip. All right, let's start with this one here. I think these are becoming harder to find. I do know they made a new release of this. We love E.H. Taylor. And by the way, I'm going to have a show coming pretty soon where we're going to taste through and talk about, you kind of say there are 4 standard offerings. I don't know if any of them are really standard because they're just not on the shelf. But what you see all the time, which is the small batch, the single barrel, this rye, and the barrel proof. I think this rye might be going away. Let me know in the comments what you guys are hearing about this rye. I know they've released the barrel proof rye that has come out now, but I'm not sure if this is going to stay in the rotation or if it's going away. But anyway, this is, following the same that most E.H. Taylor products do. They are 100 proof. They're bottled in bond. This rye is no exception. It's the same thing. This particular one is the Buffalo Trace is 51%. Wait, I think I got that wrong. Let me go to E.H. Taylor. Hold on just a second. There it is. E.H. Taylor. I knew I had a different mash bill for this on the rye. This is rye and malted barley. There is no corn in this particular recipe. This is a new offering of this, or new bottle. I've got one that's got about, I don't know, that much left. This is my backup bottle. But this is 65% rye, 35% malted barley, no corn. So you're going to expect, and you get a little bit more spice on this one, a little bit more bite, if you will, because you don't have that corn that's going to be a little sweeter and kind of soften off that spice a little bit. So one that is hard to find, one that you should definitely buy if you do find it. Just a delicious rye whiskey and kind of unique. You know, everybody likes E.H. Taylor, and this is one of their offerings that you just don't see as much. So if you do see it, definitely worth adding to your rye collection. All right, let's go to my next one. Now, I want to finish up with kind of what I think my favorite is, but I kind of tossed up between these two, but I'm going to go ahead and pull this one out. I absolutely love this rye whiskey. This is Old Carter. This is a 95.5 rye. Does that sound familiar? 95.5? Does that make you think bullet? Some of you might be wondering why there's no bullet on my list. Maybe there should be. I've never, truth be told, I've never had a bullet whiskey, a rye or anything. Probably need to try that as a whiskey guy. But this is also 95.5, and this is also from MGP in Indiana. So what they do to it to make it different, I do not know. It's absolutely delicious. This is 115.5 proof. It's got some nice proof on it. And this is bottle number 662 of 1,495. So I know that when Old Carter makes these, they're a limited release of these offerings, and that's what makes them kind of coveted. That's why everybody wants them. And this is batch number 7. I got this a couple years ago when I went up to pick some barrels up in Kentucky, and this doesn't get distributed a whole lot. So when I saw the opportunity to buy one, I jumped on it, and I've been kind of sipping on it ever since, and I'm going to be really disappointed when this one disappears and is no longer in the bottle. So that one's delicious. We're going to finish up with my favorite, and this is a tough one to find. I have both offerings of this. I'm just going to show you one. I have the other one downstairs in the bar. Nobody knows exactly where they get this from. You might already know what I'm going to be bringing out. And I don't know what the mash bill is on it exactly. But this is going to be the Michter's barrel strength rye. I also have the toasted version of this, which is absolutely delicious. Absolutely love these bourbons. This barrel strength this one's 110.8 proof. Love when I can get these. I'm starting to see these more available too. I've seen a couple of these on the shelf again where you could just pick them up. Now price has gone up a little bit more, but they're still available, which is cool that they're coming back to being able to be had, every so often, so to speak. But that's going to be my list. That's going to be my top 6 or 7, if you add the Elijah Craig. And these are my 3 hard to find, but if you can, go ahead and get them. And I don't even want to talk price. I don't even remember. I've had these for a few years. I think this Old Carter was like I want to say it was like 130 that I paid for this in Kentucky. I know I got this for about 125, the Michters, and I think I paid 89 for the rye from E.H. Taylor. So you can see they're a little pricier. They're a little bit more sought after. So that goes to be expected, right? But 3 absolutely delicious rye whiskeys. 3 that you have some friends that are coming over that enjoy whiskeys, something special, something different. These are 3 cool ones to have in your bar. Let me know in the comments, what's your favorite kind of allocated, hard to find rye whiskey that you might add to this list? Some might say the Jack Daniels, but I kind of see those a little bit more frequent. But that's the episode for today, folks. Thanks for stopping in, giving us a listen, giving us a watch if you're watching on YouTube. Really appreciate that. I'm going to tell you, for 5 years, I haven't had and sipped on this Elijah Craig rye. Shame on me. I've been missing out. Delicious rye. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bottles and Bites Without Borders. And until our next episode, keep exploring the world, one bottle and one bite at a time.